All right. You ready to get into it today?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Hey there, and welcome to Marriage Talks, a real, authentic, and relatable podcast about how to thrive in your marriage. I'm Elizabeth Ann.
And I'm Michael.
Today we have a special episode for you.
I am so excited for this one.
I'm excited too.
We've been planning for months, really, with this special date coming up. August 5th,
Yes.
2020 is the 1-year anniversary of the first published episode of the Marriage Talks podcast. And it feels good.
It really does. It really does, because putting on a podcast is hard work.
Yeah. If you don't do one and you're just consuming them, just know, like, these things take a lot of work and time and thought, more than you might think, more than we thought for sure.
Yes. I mean, there's definitely easy ways as far as like bringing down the barrier and like, you know, editing and like making it more simple. But we like to put out like content that we're really proud of. So we take a lot of care into each episode. We plan out the script for each episode. We have an outline. Like we put a lot of time and effort into it. But it's something that we really enjoy.
Yeah, we do. Now, you could just record on your iPhone and post directly to Anchor, and that works for a lot of formats. But for us, like, we set out to have, like, we want to have a nice studio sound and all that kind of stuff and have, you know, decent equipment. But so yeah, we've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, and boy, it's been a fun ride so far. So what we first wanted to do is share some stats. You want to head up with that first?
Which one? Which stat?
All right, so I'll get the ones I know. So we just crossed a huge landmark the other day.
Oh,
yeah, we hit 9,000 downloads.
Oh my goodness!
By the time our anniversary hit, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
I didn't know when we first started out. Like, I know Joe Rogan and NPR, they get millions and millions of downloads every month or every year. And I know ours is not going to reach that scope.
No,
because you niche down to a marriage podcast, so you have a lot of people focusing on that. And then, you know, if you bring some biblical stuff into it, you niche down a little bit more. And so you're going to have a little bit smaller of a reach. So getting 9,000 was just like, are you kidding me? That's crazy. So much more than I thought we would have.
Well, when we did our goals episode at the beginning of this calendar year, I don't remember on which date it aired, but it was in January. And I can't remember if I shared this or not, but one of the goals we had for downloads for the year 2020 was to get 10,000. And I was like, that is a pipe dream. There's no way that's going to happen, because at the time we had less than 2,000 like total downloads. Yeah. And it was a slow start.
It was like friends and family only at that point.
And like Michael said, like, we niche down into a very specific category that we really truly want to be in and believe in and are passionate about. And so when we set out to try to achieve 10,000 downloads in the calendar year, I am blown away that we're going to hit that well before the conclusion of the year. Like, yeah, it's been such a fun ride. And I love looking at the stats as far as like which episodes are working and which episodes aren't, because when you as the listener listen to the shows, it helps tell us like which ones you actually liked and which ones you didn't. And so I love looking at the numbers for feedback so that we can continue to put out good quality content.
Yeah, like if we put out something that only gets like 60 views, whereas other things are getting 280, we'll know that's kind of not something our audience is really looking for. But then we'll get one that'll surprise us and like, I think this is going to be kind of relevant. And then it gets like 200 listens in the first few days. It's like, wow, that really resonated. And I guess people are talking about it and sharing, because that's a lot of people.
Yes. So we've really enjoyed the feedback that I think you as the listener unintentionally give us through the stats. It's been really helpful for us. And so just know that we're paying attention to what's performing well and what's not. And we are, as moving forward, when we're planning episodes, we are expounding on topics that have gotten a lot of hits, a lot of downloads and feedback. There's some ones that have been specific that you guys have been like, do more of this, or have you tried this type of thing. So we've really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah. So part of what we wanted to talk about this episode was just some things we've learned throughout the year of doing this podcast. We'll kind of sprinkle those in throughout with some cool stories and just experiences we've had. So the first thing is from our friend Chris Krimitz. Oh man, that's hard to say. Chris Krimitzos, who runs the Podfest conference. He is a big fan of what's called Start Ugly. And we absolutely started so ugly.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, one of those things where a lot of people, especially in the internet, it kind of opens up some possibilities for people. Like if you have a knowledge base, you can make money and have an audience on the internet. But it doesn't happen overnight. And so many people have these great skills and they don't ever do anything with them because they're too afraid to, because they want to sound like Pat Flynn on day one, or they want to sound like Ira Glass from NPR. And the truth is you're just not going to. So Chris says to start ugly, which means just put something out there. Just get it out there, refine it as you go. A lot of people, okay, so back up a little bit. Our most downloaded episode so far, and has always been...
Oh, episode 1.
Yeah, episode 1.
Episode 1.
Our welcome to the podcast. And it's so painful for us to listen back to. So painful.
We literally, when Michael is saying like start ugly, we took a handful of spaghetti and threw it on the wall, and whatever stuck. Like we just like, hey, let's just put it out there.
Yeah.
And for some reason, you guys have been loving episode 1. That is the most downloaded episode. And now all of you who don't know about episode 1 are going to want to go back and listen to it. But
just be kind to us. It sounds bad.
Compared to the content that we put out now, to us, it's drastically different. Some people might be like, it sounds great to me. And you're very sweet for thinking that or saying that. We just know that our goal is to always improve and to be better, be more refined, be more clear. So we try to be very intentional about growing our skill as podcasters. So the difference between episodes now and the first one to us is drastically different.
Well, one of the biggest things you'll notice if you go back is that we did not decide on the name of this podcast right away. We had been planning our podcast for about 18 months before we actually recorded the episode that you can hear on iTunes right now. It started out as an extension of Elizabeth's brand and her blog, which was Love Doing Life. And I wanted to join her with that and kind of be more present in her website. And I love podcasting, so I was like, I'll kind of head up the podcast end of things. I'll do all the technical stuff. I'll help script writing, and then I want to be on it with you. We'll talk about marriage. But after, I think it was 4 episodes where we did, hello and welcome to the Love Doing Life podcast.
Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 or 6, something like that.
Yeah, I recently went back 4 or 5 months ago and listened to them, and I think that's when it was. But it was such a huge decision at that time because we had stamped that LDL brand on everything, and that was what we had. And but I absolutely love that we did that because it's a much more we wanted the title to actually give a hint at what you're going to be listening to for the next 30 minutes. And I think we did that.
Yeah. It's funny going back and listening to those old episodes and welcome to the Love Doing Life podcast. And we had just no clear direction about basically our elevator pitch. And it's just funny to go back and listen maybe we should have had that figured out first. But really and truly, when Michael says 18 months, we have a picture of us sitting out in what is now the kids' playroom / schoolroom. We had no idea what we were doing. We had one mic between us. We're so far from the mic. We're in an open room. If you know about podcasting, it's all those things you shouldn't do. And just to be here now, what we've set out to accomplish, and just, like I said, refining our craft and being better at that. You just don't know. We didn't know until we got something out there, until we just started putting content out. And what happens is we get feedback from whether or not things do well, or, feedback specifically from the listener, like, hey, try this, or can you talk about this? And it's just so fun. It's so funny to go back and be like, we're like, really, we were like infants. We were babies starting out. And so we're a little more mature, I think.
Yeah. So does that make the first few episodes like poop the pants kind of thing? The audio quality. I do all the editing for the show. And we went to Podfest in March, which you may notice a massive audio change around early March to some of the episodes. But so I listened to these and I found all these tools on Adobe Audition that was like, oh my gosh, if I'd had this 6 months ago, it would be awesome. But again, that's the beauty of it. Like at that time, we were just trying to get content out there, and the better sound was further down the line. But we were trying to just get good content first and foremost. So let's go through some of the, like our mindset.
Oh.
Continue with that. Our mindset of that first episode. How scared were you?
I was sweating.
That's always true, though. You're always sweating.
It is true. Yes, it is true. I'm sweating right now. Not because I'm nervous, but because we have big studio lights on us, and
I make you nervous. Don't lie.
You make me nervous. Just recording the first. You're gonna have fun with that little bit. Michael always
snap in there.
Michael always selects these little sound bites where I try to say something and I have 6 different ways of starting it, and then I go into my thought and he can't edit it out because I'm like, yeah, so and then I went to the store and I'm like, thanks for pointing that out.
Well, if you guys only knew how many of those I was able to edit out, it would have been interesting. I like to find funny. Like a special spot where she laughs really funny, and then I'll pick it out. It's like a half second, and then loop it. And there's nothing worse than hearing yourself go, gets me every time. So if she ever sees me laughing really hard while I'm doing editing, she goes, oh God, here we go.
Back to our first episode. Yeah. I was very nervous because I think when you start anything new, whatever field it's in, you get this imposter syndrome and you're like, who's going to listen to me? I have nothing new to add. Everybody's already said it, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But what we have come to find is that, like, surprisingly, because it's still hard to believe that we have as many downloads as we do, that you as the listener come back because you want to hear information from us. So like Joe Schmo down the street could say the same exact thing, but you're choosing to come back week after week to listen to what we have to say. And that is such an honor. That is such an honor. And we do not take that for granted. We realize that is a treat. We treasure that. And so I was so nervous at the beginning to share our experience and like, nobody's going to connect with us, all this stuff. But
you're afraid of that brick wall kind of thing. It's like, oh, just kind of broadcast this stuff that's kind of personal. Hope someone cares. And it's like, oh, people care.
Yeah.
They actually care.
People really like me. Yes. So we were definitely nervous. And, you know, if you've actually watched some of our podcast recordings, you can see what our setup is like now. But when we first started, like, it was drastically different. And so we've just evolved as we've gone on, not only with presenting content, but, you know, our setup and how we view podcasting and how we care for it and all that kind of stuff. So it's just been a really neat growing experience together.
Yeah. And one of the special type of episodes we had decided to do early on was the Fave 5.
Yes.
Which to this day, still doing it, still every 5. It's been hilarious and fun to do those. One of the coolest feedbacks that I got was an in-person feedback. A friend of ours had been listening to the show since really early on. I think an original listener.
And OG,
yeah,
OGL.
Yep. And we do the Fave 5 if you listen to the episodes because we want to encourage like a super easy conversation or date night type of thing. So here's the 5 things we love. Check them out on your next date night. And we got some feedback that she had an amazing Fave 5 based conversation, And I was like, oh, cool. So he actually like took what we said and did it, and it was very fruitful. So that was the theoretical point of everything, and it actually works. Yes.
Yeah. So if you're new to the podcast, every week we give a challenge, and we literally feel like the challenges are falling on deaf ears because we get very little feedback. And that's not surprising to us that it's very little feedback, because we're talking about personal things, personal subjects, things that are happening between you and your spouse. And that's a very intimate setting. So we get that there's not going to be much feedback. But, when it's like constantly no feedback, which we always appreciate and we always love when it's delivered in love.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Never mind.
We so enjoy that feedback. And so when Michael got that feedback from a listener, it was super encouraging, because if she's doing it, we can have faith that somebody else is doing it as well. And they're just, maybe getting busy with life and not providing that feedback. But we love getting the feedback or a review, reaching out to us, giving us topic ideas, because we want to make it relevant to you. That's why we are doing it. We're always going to bring a topic that's relevant to you from our experience so that we can speak into that.
Yeah, well, I'd say that feedback has been better than I thought it would be, just because everything you said being the case. I didn't think we'd get much of anything, and we have gotten reviews. We've gotten in-person comments from friends who listen, and emails and Facebook messages that have been really special. That kind of brings up a good point, is why do we do any of this stuff? Because it is a lot of work. It's several hours per week. We do it for you guys, our listeners, and it is awesome hearing from you guys. Over the years' time, we've gotten lots of emails, Facebook comments. One of the special ones that really got me in the heartstrings was a guy. I'm not even sure how he found us. If he's just randomly come across it on Pandora or whatever, I need to actually ask him. But he had said he really enjoyed the show, and he was going to encourage his wife to listen because he thought she would like it too. And then got some feedback later from him in the same thread that she loved it and was listening to a lot of the episodes. I was like, holy cow, that is so cool. It's like somebody we didn't really know, and we're hoping we reach out to people who are out there in the world. And there he was right there, liking it enough to find us, hit message, type a message, and then a follow-up. And it's like, all right, that is exactly what I was hoping for.
Yeah. We love to know how you found us. Like, family and friends, we know how you found us. We said, listen to the show enough times that you gave in.
Support me.
But if you are, we're not friends in real life or family, we love to know how you found us, because that also helps us to put the show out in that whatever area or whatever space that you're in, however you found us, so that we can, help others find us. So, you find us on Instagram or Facebook, and in our Facebook group, we have one that's pretty active. Let us know how you found us, because I think that's it's great feedback for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It helps us to know where to kind of focus attention. If we got, a hot spot and we want to kind of spend more time really investing in a particular service or something like that, so that we can reach more people who are interested. So that's where it's at, baby.
Yeah. I'd love to describe for them what our podcast kind of looked like when we first started.
Okay.
Because we don't have video recordings of that.
Thank God.
Yeah, probably.
That was by design. I don't think any normal cameras could pick up the lighting in the room we were.
Oh, heavens.
I think it's a single bulb. It's like a dangling halogen bulb, just making shadows and interrogating people. All right. So the first thing we did, I did so much research into podcast equipment. I could just spend hours reading about microphones and stuff. We went with the Blue Yeti for our first one, which, if you know anything about microphones, it's a condenser mic, which it's a nice entry one. It does fine, but in the room we started, we had the refrigerator. We had massive open areas, and everything was hard and
yeah, but we didn't
echoey.
record any. We didn't record any episodes out there.
We didn't?
No, we did everything.
We did one, but we never launched it. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when we came back here into the bedroom, we moved our desk back here, and
which had two reasons. One being the acoustics were better just because it's a smaller room and it's an actual closed room with more textiles. But
And no fridge with a compressor too.
but also when you have a computer and some expensive recording equipment, and then you have 3 children that are under the age of 5, you're like, yeah, better keep the door closed with the equipment.
Yeah, so the problem with the condenser mic, sorry if this is like inside baseball and none of you guys care about the technical stuff, but I could talk all
We're
day.
trying to paint you a picture.
Yeah, so the condenser mic, it's good at collecting audio, which is what a mic does, but the problem is it doesn't filter anything, so you can hear the baby monitor 12 feet away, you can hear the vent turning on, you can hear the blades of the fan going, and the massive heat exchanger outside like 35 feet away. So we were getting all this extra stuff and I wasn't loving it. And I was like, we got to get a dynamic style mic, which is they're actually way cheaper too. I don't know why we went with the other one, but it's just better because it collects just like a little sphere of audio, and anything outside of it, it doesn't collect. So like her and I talking 3 feet away, her mic's not picking me up very well, and vice versa.
Yeah, and when you record with one mic, which we had set up on the boom arm that came down like in between us, kind of like a boom mic on a TV show where they hold it up over the actors so they can collect the sound.
Yeah, sometimes gets in the frame on accident.
Yes, that's what it was like. For us, it was coming in between us, and we were sitting in our office chairs, which are kind of noisy.
And huge, too, so you can barely get close to each other.
So we're facing each other, and our knees are like intertwined because we have to be that close to each other to turn down the gain so that it doesn't pick up all the extra stuff. So we're sitting really close to each other with a mic right in between our faces, talking, delivering information. And
wait, how many fights did we have, or like mini fights, where I was like, you were way too far from the mic. You need to be this far. But put your thumb and your pinky out.
Like a hang loose.
And
thing.
you got to be that far, or else this can sound terrible. She's like, I am that close. You're just on the other side. You can't tell. I was like, no, you're not. You're really far. And of course, the audio sounded fine. Like 2 inches doesn't really make a difference. But it's like, you're sweating because you had to turn off the fan and the AC. You have to be in a fake leather chair. You're sticking to it. And then you're just arguing about distance from the mic. We had to switch equipment just to keep the thing going.
when we say we poured in blood, sweat, and tears.
Mostly just sweat.
A lot of sweat.
Yeah.
Okay, because we've already established that I sweat, so it's a lot of sweat. But that's what we did. That's what we had. We made it work, and we had that set up for like 25 episodes.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Which is 6 months.
Yeah, that's a long time to not change that up. And then we finally got a second mic.
Yeah. So we'll kind of shorten the story part of this, but we ended up getting a mixer, which allows you to do a little different kind of mic options. She got this silver mic that she's on, and as soon as I heard her on that, I was like, I've got to get something like that too. We had a few months where I was still trying to get that, and then finally I got one, and it sounds great.
Yeah. So we've, like I said, if you've been watching the video recordings of the podcast, you can see what our setup is now, and it's just drastically different from the beginning. But anytime that you set out to do your own thing, you just, like, we started with what we had.
Yeah, bootstraps.
And we just made it work. And then when we could afford to upgrade a little here and there, we did that. But it was good because I just feel like it really, this whole experience has brought Michael and I closer together for sure. But I feel like when you're bootstrapping it from the beginning together, it's a whole new level of growing closer. And I can't begin to express to you guys how much doing this podcast for you has improved our own marriage.
Yeah.
Because we want to live the example that we're speaking. We're not going to give you, say, hey, do this and do that, and then not do it ourselves. That's silly. And you guys will see right through that. So we always practice what we preach to the best of our ability. And so it's been such a blessing to us. And I wish I could say more, like use different words for how much you guys have blessed us with your feedback and just supporting us. Other than thank you, it's meant a lot, but it really has. It's been life-changing for us.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like you first start a podcast and you're like, I guess I'm a podcaster now because I published an episode. And then you get into it a few weeks, and especially when we went to PodFest, I mean, that was like literally like a humongous experience for me personally. I think Elizabeth would agree. And meeting other podcasters, it's like you start to get an identity as a podcaster. And it's like, I have a project that I do that's like a piece of me. And for us, it's her and I together, a piece of us out there for other people to consume. And, you know, we're really proud of it because people tend to like it, and, you know, we're growing, and it's getting to be more and more fun. But it's like, it's cool how it's a little identity of who we are now. But I agree. It's like, we always talk about communication. Just talk with your spouse. This is difficult, but you need to talk about it. So like, that's us struggling through our own stuff. It's like, we probably haven't talked about this enough too. So we're going to do this episode talking about it, and then continue to dialogue about sex, about conflict, about raising kids, finances, you name it. And that is like really, really helped our own communication style in our day to day. And another thing that I was really surprised by was when you're podcasting and you connect with other podcasters, what a cool group of people.
Yes.
Seriously.
Surprise, surprise. We all like to talk.
Yeah. Yeah, but we've been connected with some other people through PodFest. I think we've probably mentioned PodFest 30 times this episode, but just having a little community of people is so important. It does not matter what you're doing. If you have a little community of people who support you and you support them, and they're always there for you, you're going to have success, whatever it is, whether that be church, family, a hobby like podcasting, or you name it. The sky's the limit. Like those small communities of people is epic.
Yeah, and you need that community of people to help support you, because we can't do anything on our own. Like, you know, if you've listened to the show before, you probably have picked up Michael and I are Christians, and so we know that there's nothing in this life that we can do on our own. We heavily rely on strength from Christ and being in the Word and being rooted in that. And then the beautiful thing about other people having the same interest as you is that then you create a community that you can help support each other and have accountability. And so it's been a really neat thing. I actually just got off the phone a few hours ago with a sweet woman that we met at PodFest. And
yeah, it's Rhonda from one of our earlier episodes. You can hear her and Connell, her husband.
That's an excellent episode because we talk about 3 things you would tell your younger married self. And that's really, really good because they're a few years ahead of us in marriage. And so they've gone through some more things. And we learned a lot through that one. But yeah, Rhonda and I talked for like an hour earlier. And so you just kind of build these friendships and you cultivate them, and people who just get the space that you're in, and it's really, really neat.
All right. So we had some really popular episodes over the course of the last year. We wanted to kind of highlight some of those as like Hall of Fame. Is that bad? Because it's like our stuff, highlighting your own stuff.
No.
Is that conceited?
No, it's acceptable.
Yeah.
It's our anniversary.
That's true. It's our podcast, baby. We can make it whatever we want.
Yeah.
The one, obviously our first 1 and 2 are like the ones, I guess people hear about us and they go all the way down to the bottom and kind of let's kind of hear what this is about. So other than those 2, which are just number wise really popular, some of the ones that were like insta popular the week of release, the first one that comes to mind is the 3 Shades of Intimacy.
Yes.
And that was based on a blog post, correct?
No.
That wasn't. Okay.
That was OG content, baby.
OG, written straight for you guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one was good because it helped. It's funny. We were writing the script and Michael's like 3 Shades of Intimacy. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, there's physical intimacy. He was like, well, yeah. And then there is.
Was that fintimacy?
Intimacy. And then there's spiritual intimacy.
Spintimacy.
And then I believe we talked about cognitive intimacy.
We should know this because it's our episode.
Well, to be
Cognitivity.
To be fair, it's like episode 4.
Yeah, it's been like 48 weeks.
This is episode 52. So forgive me if I don't go back and listen to every single thing we do. It was really good. I think that episode stretched us because I think we know that obviously in marriage there's physical intimacy, and then there's spiritual intimacy. Specifically for Michael and I being Christians, we connect on a spiritual level and talk about like where our walk is with the Lord. And so we talked about that. And then cognitive intimacy, I think that was one that you were kind of like, I don't really know if that's a thing, but the more we talked about it, he was like, oh yeah, like I can totally see that, because we have that for each other, obviously.
Yeah.
But when you don't actually like put the label on it and talk about it, it's a little bit more difficult to kind of recognize that it's there. But I thought that one was really fun because I think that was kind of the first episode that really stretched us.
Yeah, and if cognitive intimacy feels foreign to you or sounds made up, it's because we did make it up for this.
I think it applies because, you know, you're like, I'm attracted to Michael for a lot of reasons, and and one of the many reasons is that I love his mind. I love just how he processes things, how he thinks through things, like all the things that are associated with his mind, and we connect cognitively, like how we do things and all that sort of stuff. We connect that way, and so there's a cognitive intimacy there. I'm saying it's a thing. I should trademark it.
It's on the internet now, so it's true. You know, this is actually the entire reason why I agreed to the podcast, because she's like showering me with like, hey, this is why I'm attracted to Michael. I was like, really? Do tell.
I tell you those things outside of the podcast.
You do. I'll give you credit.
But yeah, that one was really fun. And then another one that actually really blew up for us was a series. And this was based off of a blog post that I did on my blog.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yes, many years ago. And that's 7 Silent Killers to Marital Intimacy. And I loved writing the article when it was first, you know, coming up in our marriage, and I loved doing the podcast about it because I loved getting into each one a little bit deeper. And we share a lot of things.
Yeah, because what was it? 7 points, but some of them were similar. So there were like 5 episodes, I believe, in the series.
There were 6. We combined like phone tablet and phone. Yeah. Yeah,
and the 7th one was anger / unresolved issues, and it was like wildly more popular than the other episodes. But it's kind of obvious why. Like if you're married, you know, like if you want to listen to a podcast about how to improve anything about your marriage, like anger and unresolved issues is a big problem for a lot of people. So I think that's why that was such a popular one.
Yeah, and you know, we're humans, so we're going to get angry with the person we're closest to, which is going to be our spouse, you know. So just seeing, it was really cool to see the numbers, not to be like, you know, minimalize anybody's hurt, because I think sometimes when we say like, oh, well, you know, everybody's gone through that, it kind of makes you feel like you shouldn't be complaining about whatever the issue is, and that's not what I'm saying at all. It's like, I feel like I'm in good company. Like, I feel like my problem is not an anomaly type thing. Like, we are all struggling together. So let's like join hands and let's be better. Like, let's keep each other accountable. Let's strive to keep our marriage the center of like protecting that relationship, not protecting your pride type of thing. And so it was nice to see the numbers on that. Because I also feel like it helps us to, like I said earlier, to help us cater topics that are specific to the audience, to you as the listener. Like, you're really struggling with, and I don't mean like you specifically, but the people who listen to that unresolved issues anger episode, that's what those people are really going through. So we need to figure out another episode that can help dig a little bit deeper into that particular topic. And so I felt comforted because Michael and I will be the first to tell you that we are not perfect and we deal with anger and unresolved issues, and we just do our best to walk through it. And so it was comforting to me to just know that I was in good company with the people who are listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last episode we wanted to highlight was how to stay close in the daily grind. Fairly recent episode. That one kind of, that was our first, like, we noticed the numbers in the first 5 days, like, what's going on here? This was really popular.
It took off.
More downloads than typical people we have tuning in every week. And it was in the middle of COVID. So I think that was a huge thing because at that point, COVID quarantine had gone on for a long time. And I think a lot of couples were feeling the burn.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we've been too close for too long and there's no end in sight to this thing. So we need to figure out how to not kill each other or whatever. So like an episode about staying close when everything's kind of feeling like a grind seemed to resonate pretty well.
Yeah, I was really shocked. I feel like that was our first episode where the numbers like truly spiked after we published it, because we typically have this this predictable growth throughout the week, and then we release a new episode and then the predictable growth. But that one, just for whatever reason, it really resonated and the numbers just went through the roof. And that was really exciting because we're like, when we see the numbers go up on something, we get excited because that means that we have created content that you really enjoy and that you needed. And so that was really, really reassuring for us because we're like, yes, like, not that that's a struggle for people, but yes, we feel like we have helped in some small way. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Love it. Again, it's why we do it all. All right. So another thing is that we've learned through our year of podcasting is to stay true to who we are as a couple and as people. And I don't think I've shared this really before, but when we first started out, we were kind of in conversation about how much of our faith to bring into the actual conversation. She was a big fan from day one, being like, hey, that's who we are. Like, let's do that openly, obviously, every episode, if necessary. And I was kind of like, well, I don't want to, if we bring too much of that, we might miss out on people who would turn us off if we start bringing verses in or something like that. And it became very clear after a very short time that I was like, we are believers. Like, we love the Lord. We need to talk about this. And that is a huge part of our marriage and is a huge part of a Christian marriage is talking about that, bringing in biblical truths to the conversation. And it was like, huge weight lifted off my back. Once we started doing that, I was like, what was I thinking in the beginning? Like, that was crazy.
Well, I think it's a level of fear, just like with anything, just feeling rejected. It's a natural feeling. And this is a little mini marriage lesson for you. I had to be patient with Michael. I can't force him to agree to, like, you need to do it this way, whatever it might be. Like, just being patient with each other, because if I'm truly praying for his heart to change about that, because I believe, and of course I know that he did too, it was just fear getting a hold of him, that our faith has to be in this, 100%. But if I'm forcing him to do it, it's not going to be from a place of a genuine, like, worshipful heart. It's gonna feel forced. And so it's just something that I had to wait and to be patient and to continue to pray over that.
Yeah, I think I was falling into, with this original thought process, like the whole thing, I might butcher this, but share the gospel anytime you can. And if you have to, use words. So it's like, oh yeah, they'll know we're Christians just from the stuff we share, of course. We don't have to do anything more than that. And again, I think it was fear, but also it's like, yeah, you do need to use words. Like, make sure that's how we share information. That's really, really important, to be upfront and just talk into things, talk into people's lives with the gospel and in the lens of a marriage and their marriage. And it's going to be amazing if you do that. So yeah, I'm glad I came around. So it's like such an obvious truth. It just took me a few weeks to get to.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. we do want to get into kind of future. What we feel, right? What we feel like.
Oh yeah.
The
year 2,
where we feel like the podcast is where we want it to go. That's at least our plan. One thing that we definitely plan on doing in the future, because I think in the first year we're kind of getting our feet under us and like trying to get the hang of everything and kind of get it on a natural like
a flow.
Yeah. And one of the things that we plan to do in this year too is to do more lives. We did a couple in year 1 and we had a blast. We loved doing those. Those were so fun. And
yeah, especially the joint lives we did with Connell and Rhonda. That was super fun.
Those were super fun. And because we feel like it's just a better way to connect with you in like real time. And so we plan on doing more lives. And when our Patreon, because if you've listened, you know that we have a Patreon. We have a part of one of our tiers is to have live like hangout sessions with those Patreon members. But we just want to be there. Like we want to be present for you guys and not just behind a mic. And so that's one of our goals moving forward with year 2.
Yeah, and another thing is if you haven't noticed my awesome shirt, boom, this is our logo as of about 2 months ago.
I think so.
Yeah, we stressed over a logo. I don't know, I was stressed about it. Maybe
well, I was stressed because I was making it.
Yeah, so Elizabeth has some serious Photoshop skills, but when it comes to like creating a logo for something that you've made, it's like everything she was making, I was just like, I don't think that's it.
Yeah, nothing fit. Nothing felt right.
It just all felt flat, and it was just like, or like cliche, and it was so hard to come up with something that we both loved. And then we were inspired to make this, and it. So I was inspired to tell her about kind of I don't know how much this is my idea, but she made all this. So this is all Photoshop. So if you can't see this on a podcast, but it's really cool.
If you're watching the video, you can. But we had, it's hard when you're like, I don't know what I want, but what you have on the screen is not it. And that was true for both of us. I was just throwing things up there and I was stressing because I love to create and I wanted to make our brand more cohesive and I really, really wanted us to have a logo. And so it was agony. It was agony because I couldn't fix the problem. The problem was that we needed to have a logo and I couldn't fix it. And we started saying things like, try this. What about this? More this inspired, less this.
It's like, I gotta have a dinosaur in there somewhere. I just don't know why. It's kind of a dino.
And so just like bouncing ideas when we finally could figure out like the words that we needed to say to each other to nail it down. Then we came up with our logo and we'll put like a picture of it. But moving forward, we plan to have more merchandise and speaking of merchandise, you have to have somewhere to house it. Our website is finally live.
Yeah,
oh my
it took a while. It took a while. We got there.
Yes. marriagetalkspodcast.com is live and that's where everything's going to be housed. And I'm so pumped because I started in the blog world in 2014. So I first had a website. That's what I first poured all of my energy and time into. And for the longest time, a year, we haven't had one. And I'm just like, we need one. But we wanted to do it right. And so it's finally live and I'm just so pumped about it.
Yeah. And if you go to our website, marriagetalkspodcast.com, and then if you think it looks good, it's because Elizabeth designed everything.
You're sweet.
And she like labored over this thing for weeks at this point. We went live yesterday. Is that right? 2 days ago?
August 2nd.
So 3 or 4 days, 3 days, whatever it was. But she put in some serious work and it looks so good.
Yeah. I'm very excited about it to continue to add to it and to get a shop on there and all kinds of good stuff. Great resources for you guys. Our favorite marriage resources, all kinds of good stuff. I love being able to have everything in one place. And so it's live. You should go check it out. You can just see all the things there.
Yeah. So if you guys have any thoughts or suggestions about where we should go, specific things, whatever. We want to hear from you guys. Email us or Facebook us or Instagram us. We're on all the things. So, and we can't do a Marriage Talks podcast episode without a challenge.
No, we cannot.
Our challenge for this episode is, if you and your spouse have anything that you've talked about that you haven't done yet, that you think would be exciting, but you have some reason why you haven't done it, we want you guys to like legit sit down and talk about putting it into action and making that thing become real.
Like, give an example. So
our podcast was a great example. Something we had a passion for, and like, that'd be cool to have a podcast. 2 years later, but like, if you have an idea for something, like if you're working hard and you're just like, oh, my job, I just want to do something for myself or be my own boss, and you can work your spouse into it. Like, nobody does a career change or some massive project by themselves. Not truly, because you got to support each other. Yeah,
you have a support team.
So we want you guys to sit down and talk about that project or whatever. And if you've never had that, that inclination,
I mean, it could be like a DIY project around the house. It could be taking a vacation. It could be cleaning out that mystery closet. It could be organizing the garage, like something that either one of you have said, like, I just want to do this, or I just want to go here, or whatever it might be, to talk about that and do that together.
Yeah. So there you have it. There's the challenge. And we are so appreciative of all you guys who keep tuning in week after week. We said it a million times because it's true. We can't do this without you guys and your support and your continual listens. And we love the feedback. So keep it up, y'all. Look forward to us next week. We look forward to hearing from you guys too.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. We love y'all. Cheers to 1 year.
Clink.